That's a wrap.
And we are live.
Oh gosh! All right.
Hello. Do we actually have people though? Welcome to the Jane Doe.
I'm gonna check now.
Welcome to the Jane Doe Podcast, where we have ourselves as an audience. Let me tune in as well.
Yep, that's all we got.
If I tune in, it'll probably be me.
All we got is us.
It's me. It's Kelly. Where your followers? So
CMB. All we got.
I didn't even have a chance to really there. And then I was thinking, who all? I mean, I'm going to be candid, but I was like, who all do I really want to know all these ins and outs? It's better for strangers.
But you already kind of expressed a little bit of that. So I won't do the intro just yet as we wait for people to gather themselves. Okay. But anybody else we want to talk about? I mean, we had Kelly kind of on the headliner, but
how was everybody's week?
It was great. I'm glad it's tomorrow's Friday though.
Same.
Right before this, I was knocked out asleep. I was like, let me get up. I'm drinking coffee.
Oh wow!
At night, so you'll be up all night now.
No, it doesn't even bother me.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I drink coffee every night.
Yeah, me on the other hand, I'm
never had a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
What do you say, Malika?
But I've never had a cup of coffee.
Never had a cup of coffee.
Is there a delete button on here or
y'all with anybody on this podcast?
Right.
For real.
I've never had coffee either.
Interesting.
I don't even like the way it smells.
My dad is like that. My dad is like, they perked coffee so much when he was coming up that the smell of it just makes him sick.
Yeah, I don't like
the smell of coffee is part of the essence of coffee.
And there's different aromas too. So it's not just one. Like I know it's probably just the ground bean of it all, but
yeah, I don't
my Spanish teacher used to have coffee breath, and I was like, no. Shout out to Ms. Zentz. I love her, but
wow,
she drank coffee.
Lizzie,
every
blast.
Yeah,
I love Ms.
Zentz. With her little tiny self. God bless her dead. She gone now, but
she is?
Yeah, Ms. Zentz died.
Look, taking the shout out back.
Yeah.
Wow. I can't do that.
Shout her out.
Oh, damn.
All right, well, we're getting some folks, y'all. So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce. I'm Tanya, and welcome to the Jane Doe Podcast. We have Malika.
Hey, everybody.
And we have V.
Hello.
And Gadget.
Here.
And we have a special guest, a friend of the show.
And fan.
Friend and fan. Call her, you say what? Kelly Jamerson. Kelly gives us excellent advice on a lot of things in my life. But last time she was on, she was a fan favorite. I think she received 3 likes, I believe, and 1 was from me.
I'll take it any way I can get it, Ty.
I know that's right, Kills. So this should be a fun show, but it's also going to be one of those educational / insight type shows because everyone knows that someone who has a COVID story. And some of them are not pretty and a lot of them are ending well, y'all. And a lot of them could be avoided and some you can't be avoided because you don't know where it's coming from. This thing is airborne. But recently, our friend of the show, Kelly Jameson, she had an experience and we asked her to come on the podcast so she can share her experience because it's an interesting one. All of them are unique about how you caught it, how the 2-week period was, whatever you want to share, we're here to listen.
Okay, so I guess I just was to jump in and just start talking about it.
Okay. Is there any other way?
Well, I guess not. I guess this is the way we're doing it. So let's just do it. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Tanya for having me I wasn't going to thank her for having me. I was going to thank her for how she helped and supported me while I had COVID. But thank you, Jane Doe Podcast and Gadget, for having me on yet again. I always look forward to your podcast on Thursdays, especially when Tanya's parents are in the audience and saying crazy stuff.
They'll be here.
But I really I appreciate this opportunity to come and talk about COVID, maybe in a different way than you've heard it before, because not a lot of people are talking about it when they have it. And I don't know what that's about. I mean, it makes you feel kind of nuts to get it. And, you feel weird while you have it. But I also want to thank Tanya she was so supportive. You all may not know the supportive Tanya. I don't know if you know her. But no, Tanya checked on me daily, text me, talked with me. I had a breakdown session with her about how traumatized I was at one point. She even wrote a song for me based on some things that I was going through in COVID. We'll get to that later.
I did.
But so again, thank you. But I just really want to say that having COVID is miserable. It is one of the most miserable things I've experienced in life. And it's miserable in so many ways. Like, I wouldn't wish it. It could be a torture tactic for a person, these symptoms that you have that are just weird. And I'm a person who never really has had the flu. So, I mean, I've had a fever and, some body aches, but not flu like people talk about it. And if it's like the flu, it's like 1,000,000 times worse than the flu. So, yeah. And so basically, my COVID journey started in July, the end of July, like July the 31st. And I was down bad for 18 days. 18 days was my whole experience, including a hospitalization, which I had told myself I wasn't going to the hospital. They start talking about putting me on a vent, and these kind of things. I had already made up my mind that wasn't something I was going to do. But at one point, my daughter and I, let me just say this, there were 10 people in my family. It affected 3 households.
Oh, wow.
Including my dad.
And Gadget, can you show us, Gadget? We'd like to interact with Kel.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you. So 10 of us in 3 households, including my dad and my mother-in-law, former mother-in-law, but she's still my mother-in-law. He's not my husband anymore, but she's still my mother-in-law. Y'all know how that goes.
I understand.
So we all survived and we have all recovered. And to answer this question, none of us were vaxxed at the time. So that's a question that comes up whenever you start talking about having COVID. Like, that's really the first question. Well, were you vaxxed? And I think people ask that question because they want to kind of know, like, I got vaxxed to be safe. And now I'm hearing that you had COVID. Were you vaxxed? Were you a breakthrough case? And so none of us had a vaccination, but we are all recovered and recovering. Like, some people have still some residual things. I myself do have some residual because I also had pneumonia with my COVID. So that was the part that really warranted us taking me and my daughter to the ER at around the 8th day.
Oh, the 8th day.
Yes. So prior to then, Malika, so in my home, it's me, my daughter, my boyfriend, and my dad was in the hospital for 22 days. I was in the hospital for 3 days.
Wow.
Okay. So, prior to then, we were like, okay, we're managing. You're extremely tired. You're so fatigued that taking a few steps, you just feel like you're not going to make it. Going to the bathroom and back, you just feel like, I don't know if I'm going to make it back. I'm not going to make it back to the. And part of that was the pneumonia because I just, getting hard to breathe by that point. And so
Kel, I want to stop you there. So mentally, what at that point, and what the mental part of what you were feeling?
Right. Good question. So up to that point, we were kind of taking care of each other. Like whomever was strong enough to go downstairs and fix some tea or fix some soup would do it. And then we would, bring it to the others, or they would come downstairs. And so we were kind of doing it. We were taking meds. We were resting. You can't do anything but rest. Like, you're so tired. You just lay in the bed. And like I said, it's hard to move. So we were doing a good job. We had family come by, bring meds, drop off food. Folks were really so supportive though, and so caring though. I know that energy helped us to get better, like sent us Amazon gift cards and stuff to, order stuff that we needed, brought stuff by. But what's so funny is when people would bring stuff by, child, they were like, when you get your deliveries, they were like, we're going to leave this at the door.
Throw it at the door.
I'm going to beat the horn when I'm gone and y'all can come on down.
Well, let me ask you, Kelly, because it was so many of you that that got it at the same time. Was there like a family event or something that happened, or?
Okay, so we are not sure. That's the thing about it. Like, we're really not sure, but we kind of think that it was either my son or my two nephews. So the weekend before, it was my son's birthday, and they all went out to dinner. And after dinner, some of the folks who couldn't go to dinner with them came back to my house. Now, they were outside on my deck, but I was out there when they got here. And so it was like, hey, mom, some of his friends who I hadn't seen in a long time. And we kind of think this was the start of it because, my son had mentioned prior to that his throat was kind of scratchy, whatever. Okay. We kind of think that was it. And my two nephews and niece who were a part of that group also got COVID. My son, his girlfriend. So that's what we're thinking the initiation was, but
you never know.
Never know. Never really know.
You just don't know.
Right. But,
it sounds like, because I've heard that it comes on really fast and goes really fast. So you're saying by the 8th day, it had gotten so bad that you had to go to the hospital. I would think that it would have started to get better by then.
Well, and see, that's what we thought, Malika. We thought we were doing good. We were medicating, we were taking all of our supplements, we were starting to feel better. And this may have been where like the pneumonia got worse, because on that 8th day, I got up, went to the bathroom, came back, and we were all quarantining in separate rooms. Came back to my room, and I'm in my baby's room, my granddaughter's room, and so this is my quarantine room as well. And I got back here, and I literally could not get air in my lungs. It was the most frightening feeling I've ever had in my life. And so I called first out to my boyfriend, and he slept like. Sometimes he didn't even eat. He just slept. And none of us really ate for about 6 days. You know what I mean? Like only what we could. And I couldn't get his name out loud enough for him to hear it. So luckily, Janae, who's right across the hall from me, I called her name and she heard me. She came over, and I was struggling like to get a breath in. And I stretched my hands out to her. I remember this like it was yesterday. I stretched my hands out to her, and I was like, hold my hands, and I couldn't breathe. And she was like, Mom, just breathe, just, slow down. She was like, breathe with me. She was holding my hands, and we were trying to breathe together. And I finally did catch my breath, but that was when we knew, like, and she was having trouble breathing at that point as well. And we were like, yeah, we gotta go, because this is getting worse. And that was the most frightening thing. I felt like I'm going to literally pass out right here, and they're going to find me like on this floor. I don't know how long I'll be here, but that was really frightening and traumatic. So that's what prompted the ER visit.
Wow. And you had to be hospitalized for 3 days.
Yeah. So we get to the ER, and this is another funny part. So my boyfriend, I don't know how he had the strength, because he was really down bad too, but he drove us to the ER, and we were like, get us as close as you can.
Oh my God.
COVID patients. Oh my gosh.
Even before he got us there, like if he could have driven us straight to the registration desk, we needed like drive-through registration, because we were so weak and couldn't breathe. And it was one of the hottest days outside.
Gosh.
Oh my God.
Call an ambulance?
Well,
I know no one wants to get in an ambulance, but I'm just thinking he's weak. Y'all are weak. Like,
these are great afterthoughts, Malika. We were in our COVID brain.
Oh God.
And I mean, we felt like we could do it. Like if he could get us just as close as he could. So he did. And another part is, I'm not even going to go into this, but the hospital was miserable. La Plata, Charles Regional Hospital, which we shouldn't have gone to. I know. I see you, V. I see you.
That's a bar.
We actually went to an urgent care first. And the urgent care was like, y'all
can't come in here.
I wouldn't let them pull out your own toenail.
I know. And we will be writing about that.
Janae said he didn't really get that bad. That's why he got nominated to drive you guys.
Right. Exactly.
He was like, I wasn't even in the running. What happened?
Right. You don't want this award. You do not want the worst COVID symptoms award. You don't even
Oh
want
my gosh.
So anyway, so yeah, after they ran some tests, they took some blood work, they had me on an IV, I was dehydrated. That's when they diagnosed the pneumonia. And for my daughter, you know, even though we were having very much the similar symptoms, when they ran my oxygen was in the 80s. Your oxygen is supposed to be in the 90s, in the high 90s. So mine was like at 82 or 83 at that point. And they wanted to be 94, 95, 96. And hers wasn't that bad, even though we had the same symptoms. So they were like, we're keeping you. We're sending you, talking to my daughter, we're sending you home with, you know, an antibiotic. And later we took her to another place after that. Another day after that, her dad took her to another hospital because that wasn't going to help her. So again, another bad experience at that hospital. So yeah, so they said, we're going to transfer you to GW because that hospital had no COVID beds.
Wow.
No place to put you if you had COVID. And GW had a whole COVID floor.
Now you would think that because, you know, COVID is a thing, that if you do not have beds for that, they would have an immediate response to that when you hit the door.
Yeah.
And maybe even before, you know, like, hey, like if this is what you're experiencing, we need to give you a plan. Either if you have someone to take you or have an ambulance at the ready.
No, they were miserable. And I didn't get transferred. So we got there in the afternoon. It was, you know, light outside, 4 or 5 o'clock. I was there until they transferred me to GW at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Whoa.
Woo!
So when they transferred you, did they send you by ambulance or did you have to transfer yourself?
No. They sent me by ambulance that time of Laker. Like I didn't say, no, my boyfriend's gonna come get me. He gonna take me.
Well, I just wanted to know because you said it was a bad experience. I didn't know if they were like, okay, well, you need to go to GW.
Oh, right.
We can't help you.
No, they did do that part. And if you've never been in the back of an ambulance at 4 o'clock in the morning when there's no traffic, this man was driving like a bat out of you know where. Like I was his last transport of the night, and he was just trying to get me there. Like, you know, you laying there, all you see is lights going by, like flying by. But yeah, they did transfer me early in the morning. And I will say that GW, that was a great experience. Like they were prepared for COVID, what to do, how to treat me. So that kind of made up for at least the medical part of it.
Okay. So you said that many of you are having long hauler symptoms or issues, I should say. Like what issues are you having? Because I have a friend who got COVID very early on before the vaccine or anything. And she had asthma as a child, but grew out of it. But now experiences severe asthma, and she's had several asthma attacks over the last few months, like to the point where she has to get a life alert bracelet.
Oh wow, severe.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it's primarily the pneumonia. So I still have a little bit of heaviness in my chest, which they told me is to be expected, and just I'm not 100% as far as my breath goes and my energy level, you know, so I'm still trying to get back there. I'm almost there. I think I'm about 95%.
Okay.
So that would be it. And my mother-in-law saying, so we suspect she refused to go to anybody's hospital. And she kind of said, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die right here. But we suspect that she also had pneumonia. And you know, as an older woman, she still is having some shortness of breath as well, but she's doing good. She's a trooper. Her and my dad, they were soldiers.
Yeah, I have heard the shortness of breath does take a while. My hairstylist got it very early on, and you know, she was just posting the other day about how she still has shortness of breath, and it's almost 2 years later, a year and a half later.
Wow.
And she still has shortness of breath, and she's working out. It's just she's just not going to be the same ever again.
Yeah, especially during overexertion. You know, I can always tell if I'm doing too much because it'll be like, hey, you like breathing, don't you? You need to slow down.
Right. That's a good reminder. Yeah.
So yeah.
Wow.
But nothing more serious than that. And you know, my son and his girlfriend and my nephews, you know, they didn't have the symptoms that me and Janae and my mother-in-law had, they really didn't have anything close to that. They had a scratchy throat. They had loss of taste and smell and just the fatigue. But now they're like, 100% like bopping
It just
around.
shows you how, people respond differently. It just depends on, no one has like, I mean, I know you said you and Janae pretty much had the same symptoms, but you had pneumonia and she didn't. It just really depends on you, on how bad you get it. And, when you first started talking, you said that people always ask like, were you vaccinated? And unfortunately, even though the information is out there, it's still clear to me that people really believe that because they have the vaccine that they can't get it. I went to lunch with my ex's aunt and a cousin, and she was mortified that my cousin wasn't vaccinated. And I had to explain to her, I was like, you can still get COVID, right? She was like, well, I just don't like to be around unvaccinated people. I was like, she can't hurt you.
Right.
You can get it from anyone. You got the vaccine so that it doesn't affect you as bad. At least that's what I thought then. I have a friend that got COVID 2 weeks ago and her symptoms were horrible. And she's vaccinated.
Yeah, wow. It really is. There's no rhyme or reason. Like you can't put this in any particular box. You can have symptoms, no COVID. You can have COVID, no symptoms. It's an elusive thing. It really is.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, Malika, like initially, and I think that this was just me and what I was going through after, I had COVID, and I was of course telling people that I had COVID. But initially, I kind of got a little defensive with that question, right? But that was just me. That was where I was, like, like it was a judgment, like I wasn't being safe or I wasn't being careful, and we didn't have our bubble together, And I came to realize, like I said earlier, that it wasn't that. It's just that people who are vaxxed are kind of, feeling a little insecure because of the breakthrough cases. And they just want to know, like, were you vaxxed and still got this? So I've processed that a little differently, since then. And I know that it's, for information and, just to kind of know.
I think in some cases it's information. In some cases it is judgment, depending on the person.
Exactly.
Because I am vaccinated, but I am offended by the us versus them narrative,
it's really all of us.
Yeah.
Because we can all still get it. It just,
absolutely,
we're hoping and praying that the vaccine, if it does what it's supposed to do, will keep you out of the hospital. And so far, I think we've seen that for the most part, but we can all still get it. So there it doesn't need to be us versus them type of situation. Or, you weren't vaccinated, so that's what you get. Like, it doesn't
right. That's
there are a lot of posts like that though, Malika. So a lot of people are almost like dancing up and down if somebody dies from it, saying like, well, you were anti-vaxxer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, like it really, I mean, people, you don't know where people's beliefs come from,
Yeah.
So it's not fair to,
And it, to me, and I will say it a million times, we've talked about it a million times, it is a choice. It's a personal choice.
Kelly, do you can you speak on a little bit about the stigma of saying it? Because I'm so happy that you're sharing your story, because it gives a different perspective. But so many people like are waiting months and months, and then they're saying like, oh, I had it. But it's like, it's so much, the more information that people give and share, it seems like it gives you so many different perspectives. So one, how somebody experience was, and two, just like, oh, this thing is, rampant in our community. Like, I don't want to ever have the impression that it's not getting close to home.
Right. I think it's kind of partially what we talked about, that if you say that you were diagnosed with COVID, that there would be judgment and criticism, that you weren't taking it seriously, that you didn't protect your bubble, that you didn't get vaccinated, like kind of like that you asked for it, kind of thing. And so I think that comes with a lot of shame. I just don't tend to be a person who's going to hold on to shame, because I think that people need to know, what you can experience and what my specific experience was, but also that there are hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people who are surviving COVID. You know, we hear so much about, you know, the loss and loss, any loss of life is loss of life. And those numbers are ridiculous. But we need to hear more stories about I survived COVID.
Yeah.
You know, and what it was like, that whole experience. And so that's really what I thought was important from my experience. And honestly, when I got out of my own head about that vax question, and I didn't feel shame at all. But once I processed that differently, I really, and Tanya, you know, when we were talking, I told you my whole, everything that I felt. Like, I just really felt like people just need to know. And I felt so many weird things, and I felt trauma. Like there's some post-traumatic stress and trauma that can come from having a diagnosis of COVID and all of those symptoms that you have. And not only that, like, you have something that is people are dying from.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of always in the back of your brain. Like, even if you feel like you're getting better, like, I could have died from this. I could die from this while I was, you know, actually in it. So there's just a lot of it's serious.
Yeah, I was going to say that aside from, or in addition to talking about it, so that people, you know that people are surviving, I think it's important to talk about it, so that people that aren't being touched by it, even though I don't know who. Well, I think I have people that haven't been touched by it, but a lot of people have. But there are people that haven't been touched by it yet that just seem to be very nonchalant about it. And I think it's important that people talk about it so they know, like, it's real. Like, it's not just people on TV that you see, you know, like, real people are getting sick. And it could be you too.
Absolutely. And, you know, we all can maybe think back to, like, closer to the beginning where, you know, folks that you knew who had it, like, might be far removed from you, but the longer it goes on, the closer and closer, you know, the diagnoses get to you. So that's an important thing too, that it's going to touch a lot of people. We are nowhere close to the end of this from what it looks like to me.
Yeah.
Hey, Kelly, we have a question from Michael.
Okay.
He's asking, did you have intentions on getting vaccinated before you got it?
I knew that question would be a question in the room. So actually, okay, so I had made the choice not to be vaccinated for my own reasons. And that was just, you know, a personal choice that my family made. And it was an individual thing. What was the question? Am I answering it?
Yeah. Did you have intentions on getting vaccinated?
I did not. I did not have intentions to answer the question. I did not have intentions on getting the vax prior to getting COVID.
Okay. So I have a question about how COVID and things like COVID, other viruses or things change you. You know, did it change your outlook on anything about life or anything like your job or your anything? Like, did the experience change you, like your lifestyle or?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, you know, it can be very traumatic to have something, you know, a diagnosis of something. And, you know, this is like a pandemic, like something rare like this, but the realization that it's serious and you could lose your life over it. So that was very traumatic. And so, as you all know, I'm a therapist and I have my own practice and I also work at the College of Southern Maryland, which that part was great. I have plenty of leave so I could, you know, take off, and my coworkers were great. And so they filled in, you know, for me in that regard. But where my practice was concerned, you know, it kind of forced me to come to this realization, like, girl, when you're out, there's nobody, it's just you, you know. And I do short-term disability claims for some of my clients, and there was like tons of they all kind of came at the same time, like the renewals were due, and I'm in bed trying to take care of myself. I couldn't be on my laptop filling in these little boxes and stuff, and it really just made me feel like it. And I was like, well, what the hell is the point anyway? Like, I started to really think about the priorities, in my life and the order of things. And that was really lonely. That was a really lonely time for me. Like, you have no backup, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
In that part of your life. But it also made me really angry though, because I called the short-term disability company to let them know, hey, look, I know I need to get these things in and I'm going to get them in, but I need to do this my way. I can't use your forms. I need to just do it my own way. And there was so little compassion. I totally went off on this little representative. I'm sure she was sorry she picked up the phone that day. But it really just made me realize it's like, you did hear me say that I have COVID, and that's much more important than you getting this paperwork. So, not that this client's pay was not important, but I'm not telling you I'm not going to do it. I'm telling you, I'm going to do it in my own way, which I did do anyway, because, I like to make my own rules. And by the time I got finished talking to her, she was kind of like, okay, well, just do whatever the hell you want. You want to send it in a smoke signal, do it. Because I just ran it down. That was kind of day like I had really had enough. And I was starting to feel better by then, too. I was getting my strength back. Mm-hmm. And I want to tell you one other funny thing after this, but I was getting my strength back. And I really just felt like they needed to know, COVID is out here for the clients that you're representing, for the clients that I'm representing. And all people need is some understanding and compassion. It's not going to hurt anybody if you could extend this another 5 days without clinical. The client has already paid for this benefit anyway. Don't act like you're doing them a favor. This is not coming out of your pocket. I told her that too. Mm-hmm. But, so many things just went through my mind, just how, my life is. But then also I was also thinking, I got my grandbaby, I need to be here for her. I have to get myself well, and positive energy was all around though. That's something that I honestly feel like I could feel the whole time. My cousins, my friends, my sorority sisters, people were just texting us, and it kind of got to a point where it's okay, how many updates do we have to give? But that's really ungrateful. But it was kind of just the outpouring of love and support and prayers and, how are we doing reports was just phenomenal. It was phenomenal.
That's great. V, you've been quiet. You have any questions, any add-ons? I know you've been through a lot this week. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably why I'm quiet.
Yeah.
Probably why I'm quiet.
Yeah.
I just wanted to just say that in my view, this is just an opinion of mine. I believe that outside of your physiological makeup, I just think it's just a luck of the draw. Mm-hmm. Just based on what I've seen. I lost a friend to COVID and he was fully vaxxed. Fully vaxxed. And I'm just thinking about all of the people that I knew that have passed. Actually, 4 people have passed within the past week.
Oh my gosh, B.
That I know within the past week. And so the hits just keep coming. And some of these people were vaxxed and some were not. Mm-hmm. And so I just think it's just the luck of the draw. I just think it's God's will. I just think it's God's will. I think sometimes you can just be in a more healthier state than other people, mm-hmm. and you can survive it. There are people who die of the flu. There are people who die of pneumonia. Mm-hmm. I just think it's just a luck of the draw. If you're blessed enough to be able to survive it, then you're able to survive it.
Yeah.
And move on. So,
and Gadget, you have anything? Because we know you went through similar experiences.
I would just say it was the worst experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
And that this is coming from someone who had a heart attack.
Right.
Gadget, I wanted to ask you, do you have any remaining symptoms or issues?
You're asking me?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
My congestion just left maybe about a week and a half ago.
Wow.
Okay.
So I was coughing and spitting for 2 months.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Well, I'm glad it's done.
A couple of friends of mine who worked for Metro, they contracted COVID. I talked to one of them last week and she advised me that she's still struggling. She's way better than she was, but she's still having breathing problems. Another one is on a pacemaker.
Wow.
Serious things, serious symptoms.
Yeah. So I have a comment about, people are going, the children are going to school. And so I was out with a friend of mine, and the next day she was like, hey, I need to let you know that someone at my daughter's school had COVID. And so, of course, the other kids have to be sent home. So she's saying that, she's not saying that she has it, but she's saying that by way of her daughter's school, there's been exposure. And so I started to think about that. And I'm like, well, so many kids have gone back to school, and did they really think this through? Because I go to the rec center down the street, and as soon as those kids got in the gym, that mask came down, and they were just playing like regular kids because they really don't really understand.
They're kids.
They're kids. Yeah. They're not going to do anything but do what kids do. So I was thinking, like, so here's another way that people are, forget about being in the clubs and all this other thing. We're talking about children who are below the age of getting vaccinated.
Right.
So, and they're spreading it.
And just to piggyback on that, Children's Hospital was packed to the nines with no more beds.
Yeah.
Because children are now, I forget the acronym, it's RSV or something to that. They're getting bronchial issues now where they can't breathe. And that's supposed to be some type of byproduct of the COVID virus. They're finding more children now have contracted bronchitis. I struggled with bronchitis just recently. I'm still hacking and spitting, sinusitis and bronchitis. So you just this is just a hotbed of malady right now. You know what I mean? And everybody just needs to wear their masks, and they need to do what they're supposed to do and keep their hands clean and just
right. Then you're talking about children, V. Like they're not doing
it's what are you going to do? And then, but I honestly think too that outside of the parents saying, "Hey, I can't sustain and teach my kid. I don't know if my kid is getting properly educated at home." My son works for the school system. There were many kids who were supposed to have been signing on virtually. They're not signing on at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And as a result, there are a lot of kids who didn't get passed because they just did not do what they were supposed to do in the prior year. And the parents oftentimes were out going to work or what have you, and not checking in to see how their kid was doing at all. So it's just a domino effect. And then on top of that, the psychological impact that it has on the children. Think about
the psychological impact that it's had on adults. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
In the house 24/7.
Because everybody's not okay. Everybody doesn't have a support system. There are people who are in domestic violence situations, all kinds of stuff going on. And hell, work is a safe house for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So and then
I
have had some parents. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I have a friend who's her son had the option of virtual versus going back in. And he was like, I want to go back to school. Like, he's bored. And she just says every day, I just want them to close the school. I just want them to close the school because she's afraid.
Yeah. As she should be. Because I don't know about any other school system, but I know that Prince George's County has not provided, although they've done the best that they could with their protocols. They don't have enough PPE to go around. They just no. And then on top of that, the parents are the new situation is that they don't have enough bus drivers. That's been
right.
As a result of them not having enough bus drivers, you also have parents who are scared to put their kids on the bus with good reason, scared to put their kids on the bus. So then you have this melee of parents dropping their kids off and picking up, and you have to have traffic control at the school, and kids are fighting and doing the stuff that kids do, and they're running around, and it literally is just like bedlam. So
But know what? The adults aren't much different, V, because as much as I love the go-go bands and the live bands, I'm not going to that. I see them all the time on social media, and they are packed shoulder to shoulder, no masks,
wind down
quarters, fire hazards and all.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Wind Down Thursdays, they have the after party at Felt, and it is packed in there.
Yes, and the thing is, the thing that I went to my reunion, as y'all know, I went to my reunion back in August, and it is just amazing to me how there were people there with masks. I had on a mask, I had on a shield,
right?
But my anxiety was so high.
Yeah.
And I tried to stay out of the way as much as I could. And of course, what do you do at a reunion? You hug.
Right. You don't come to be alone. So people are going to come for you.
You're coming to reunite. So that's what you do.
And I know that's not V over there.
I know. And I was like trying to take my wig and
You really, V?
Right. But seriously, I found myself having to elbow people to back them up because our natural inclination is to connect.
Yeah, it is.
Connect. And we're this thing has just created such a wedge.
You know what?
In humanity.
I will be the first one to admit that sometimes I forget. I forget to do.
I think it's natural for you to forget.
I'm a hugger, and I'll go to hug people, and it's oh my God, I forgot.
Yeah,
true.
Well, I mean, I hugged folks, but trust and believe, I had the X-Man mask on and I had the thing on. And see, the thing about the shield is the vapor from your breathing is soaked down in the bottom.
Okay.
And then you got a soggy mask on. And it's just, it was messing up my beat. I had a good beat that night too, and it was just messing the beat up.
Yeah, I usually feel the guilt after. Like if I was in a crowd, I analyze everything. I'm like, what that one guy? He looked like he got a little too close to me. I start analyzing every interaction.
You guys know that I had gotten sick, and I had gone to a party. And I didn't even think about it. I was just so excited to get out the house. I didn't even think about it, and immediately got sick. Sick. Remember when I had the cough and you guys were like, no, you cannot be on the show today.
Right.
I didn't have COVID, but it didn't dawn on me until I got sick. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I could have easily gotten COVID because I was so excited to get out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's the thing that's kind of creating this conflict. I mean, we know it's out here, but the world is opened up. Everything is open. Everything.
And that's the other thing, Kelly. What the media tells us, and by the things that they pass, they tell us, if they say it's safe, it naturally makes a lot of people feel like, well, then I'm safe. Because why would they say that? So, especially in DC, people just, I don't even think they're bringing their mask with them most of the time now. They're just free balling here. They just I'm just going to walk in and out all around. And that's what they've been doing. But I'm like, how can it be safe when, I know Kelly's experience, I know Gadget's experience. So it did not go away. And then it's creating variants
and breakthrough cases, so that's the conflict out here. It's it looks like everything is back to normal, but we're not.
It's Delta now. You have Delta, you have Lambda, you have Mu, and now you have something else going on now. Yeah. They opened everything back up, guys, because we know that people were losing money. Restaurants were closing.
Yep.
Everything was closing. People were losing their livelihoods and so on and so forth. And rent moratoriums and mortgage moratoriums and utility moratoriums are not sustainable. You just can't sustain them. So that's why they had to push through and get back. And while I get it, I'm just thinking about the people who still may never recover fully financially from it, despite everything being opened back up. Some people have lost their businesses entirely.
Yes.
Because of this. I mean, I just, This is just a sad state of affairs.
You have those businesses that are clearly desperate to make money. I was at City Winery this Saturday. Had my mask on the entire time, but I was just so shocked that they had tables shoulder to shoulder.
Always.
Yep.
And I'm just like, what the heck is going on in here?
You have no elbow room sitting at those tables at all.
And you can't even back up.
No, you can't.
I was shocked. So me and my girlfriend, we had our masks on the whole time. And I know people thought we were crazy, but we were like, there is no way we taking this mask off. We don't want no water. We don't want nothing.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So that brings me to something. Oh, go ahead, Malika.
No. I was just gonna say I was flabbergasted. It's like you're asking for everyone to show their vaccination cards, which really means nothing because we can still have COVID.
So true.
And you're putting them shoulder to shoulder. Everybody's screaming for Raheem. Like, come on, y'all.
Yeah. That's a bit much. Yeah, I was gonna say like the dating world now. Like, how do you date if you don't know their status? Is it okay to ask their status? Because I had a situation, was it last night, and a friend of mine was like, hey, these guys are from out of town. You want to come hang? I was like, are they vaccinated? Like, I mean, yes. And it's like, I don't want to hang out with random people. Like,
so my question is, why not
really
just wear
is
a mask? Why not just wear a mask?
Well, because I'll probably be drinking and eating near them.
Okay. He needs to see his teeth and see if he has teeth.
That part.
And so I'm thinking, like, if out here dating, is it okay to ask, like, I'm well or whatever?
Okay.
So what's up with your status or whatever?
Where your card? You got your card?
My understanding is that things have changed. People they talk about credit scores on first dates now, so you can damn sure ask if somebody got a vaccination.
Right?
Why not?
Now, I mean, you have to go to my Facebook page to see my whole face because I don't know if I'm gonna reveal it if I meet you in person. I'm like, here you put, look right here. If you put my name, you be able to see my nose and my mouth.
And then circling back to one of you all's other podcasts. Then you be like, give me your name on Insta and on Facebook. Let me see what you've been posting. Where you been?
Yes.
Where you been?
Right.
You been wilding out here in the go-go's.
Right.
Well, I know someone
you out there with no masking. I see you.
I know someone that wears a mask the entire time she's on a date. She'll like from afar ask him to take his mask down, and she'll take her mask down so they can see each other's face.
That's what I'm asking. What are the new trends in dating because of this?
We just going. Right.
I remember
you can't even blow it now. You just go.
Mm-hmm. I remember actually kissing my boyfriend with my mask on. I'm like, I don't know what you. How about your coworkers and where you been hanging out? I can't be getting cold.
Your bubble outside here. Not a pound. We're gonna give each other a pound at the end of the night.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Yes. I'm like, nope. But it is a thing. I mean, our comfort levels are different because we're thinking about you're dating to be in intimate settings. How much do you trust this person that you don't know well enough? They might be negative status when you meet them, but as the courting goes on, you learn how they're living. They're like, oh, you was at the go-go down at okay.
Well, here's what it is. You gotta before the date, so you plan the date. But before the date, we plan to meet at the rapid testing center. Even those aren't 100% accurate.
They're not 100%.
They're starting to do that, Kelly. They're doing that at clubs now. Yeah, they're doing that.
I didn't know that.
They're doing it at the Bethesda. What's the Bethesda? I think proper utensils are going to be there or something, and they're like, okay, you have the rapid testing on the side, so before you come in, get there early so you can get tested because you only can get in there if you have a negative testing or vaccine.
I'm for testing everything. Give me the HIV/AIDS joint. Give me everything. Give me the STD.
Oh, the full battery. The full
blood panel. I want all of it. Give me everything.
Full scan. You got to be afraid to ask. I know that's right. You have to these days.
You have to ask. I just met someone online. And they got tested and they agreed to quarantine for 2 weeks before they actually met in person.
How do we know they're doing that though?
He asked her for a diary of every place she had been.
Okay.
What is that going to tell him anyway?
I don't know. I don't
Lord,
know.
no, that place was known for COVID right there. You went to the pancake house?
She could have gone to the daggone grocery store. I mean, anything, come on now.
I know.
Yeah.
You can't make sense out of nonsense. You know what I mean? It's, well, if I want to go to Marshall's and I brought my little handy wipes and I wipe down the cart and carrying on, and I go in there and get my little purchase and come on out, and I touch the door on the way out, and I'm taking my hand sanitizer and I'm taking hand sanitizer and wiping my doggone steering wheel down, and it damn COVID any damn way. What the hell?
We talking airborne here too. Yeah. You don't know what's
right.
Exactly.
I agree.
We don't even know what's up with our masks for real. So.
I agree. Exactly. People have developed their own systems to make themselves feel comfortable.
But answer me this question: If for people that bowl, how the hell do you wear a mask to the bowling alley and you sticking your fingers down in the damn bowling ball that people that wipe their asses with and all this other stuff? So you work with the damn mask, and you got gobbledygook all on your fingers.
Not gobbledygook.
Whatever, before you rolling the damn ball down the lane.
V, I liked it when you was quiet, V.
She done came out, didn't she?
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even want to think about that now.
I'm just,
No, I agree with her. There's really no way to.
There's no safe place, people. There's no safe place.
There's no hiding place. There's no hiding place.
There's no way to protect ourselves. There just isn't. I mean, I have a friend, but I have a friend that's like, by the end of this, we're all gonna get it.
Yeah, go ahead, Kel.
I was just gonna say that is true, and I think really the thing is that you have to decide what makes you feel safe. You know, what measures do you take that make you feel safe, that make your family feel safe? And you take those measures and you do what you always did. You pray, you surround with good energy and you go about your way, because we can't, although it's here, and yes, we do have to, it's on our mind, even if it's below the radar, sometimes it's out there. But, if we let it, we would just, all barricade ourselves in our home and just be a recluse and not do anything.
So tell us some things that we should be doing, because, this is a lonely disease too. I mean, virus. This is not something that you can have your mama come over and nurse you, or your friend come over and nurse you. This is people are seriously afraid more so of just being alone, being isolated a lot, knowing that part. They don't know the other part yet. So they're like, oh my God, I'm about to be, in a situation where my mental health, my mental health. And what about the meds that they're usually taking? And at that time, I'm not sure if you would want to even take your regularly scheduled meds. So is there anything you can provide in terms of advice for people who are going through this alone too?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, the first thing I want to say is that, thank God for the technology that we have these days while we're going through this, and inclusive of, virtual platforms, and also ways to order food and groceries and supplies and meds, because just imagine like what this would have been like, however many years ago, I can't even remember, pre all of technology. But, it's kind of, to me, like anything else that we do on a regular basis. So it requires that you take care of yourself in terms of your support system, reach out to your supports, ask for help if you need it. Most definitely your self-care. And Tanya, you're right. I mean, I think my boyfriend had COVID back in 2020, like back in January, before we even knew. And we were, didn't know any wiser. And I was here and I cared for him, and he went through it for a few weeks, and then we, learn about it. But I didn't get any symptoms at that point, and I was right there in the same bed in the trenches, going through everything. So I think it's really just, again, like deciding like what takes care of me. What kind of things, if I'm going through it alone and I start to feel isolated, what kind of things make me feel connected? And that's not a good time to isolate even more, from your friends, from your family, from people who care about you. So even if it's challenging, like you kind of have to challenge yourself to reach out and ask for help if you need it. And also, this is a good opportunity for people in the lives of other people to realize, wait a minute. So I haven't heard from so-and-so. Check on your folks. You know, like Tanya was really good at that. So many people were really good at that. But if something seems different, it seems off, you haven't seen them on social media, you haven't heard from them, like we might text a couple of times a week, it's a good opportunity also to, you know, check on other people and see how they're doing, especially people who you know live alone, whose family might not live in the area. So it kind of just takes a little bit greater awareness and a different kind of engaging. You know, we kind of have to think about some of those things a little differently than we once did. So
I think the shame too, the shame of people who do contract it. So we're dealing with people too that who've had prior experiences where they've actually needed help and it usually backfired, or you know, they didn't want their business in the street, or they did, you know, they just felt like they just couldn't ask for help, and they definitely needed the help, be it mental help or, you know, just, hey, can you just go to the store for me? Just something simple.
Yeah.
They don't know how. I was going to say the point that she made about, you know, reaching out to your support system. When I'm feeling bad, I totally shut down. I have a hard time even asking for help. And I just go into a
no, independent Black women. That's what's wrong with the independent Black women.
Nobody will hear from me.
Wow, Malika.
Yeah,
we are here for you. V, we are here for you.
Right. And I really want you to
like people are. You know how people are.
Yeah.
Girl, she got that thing. She got that thing.
I know. I was gonna say a lot of people, even when they know that you still don't have it, they probably still like side-eyeing because we don't know how this works. So we're thinking like, are people okay? So then you get really all this paranoia every time you go out, like thinking everybody has it. It's after me. I mean, we're really going through a lot of mental stuff with this, not just the physical. I mean, even before we even get it, we're mentally going through it.
It's like vicarious trauma from all the exposure that we see on television and hearing stories and social media. But this is a good time for me to segue that I am going to be doing COVID care support groups. It's going to be a drop-in support group, and it's going to be a weekly support group, and there's not going to be any fixed, you know, time that is 8 weeks or whatever. It's going to be a certain time, certain day. I'll make sure to get information out to you all. And this is a place, an opportunity for people. It's going to be virtual. So individuals can talk about their experiences. They can talk about loneliness, dating, grief related to losses, talk about hospitalizations, residual symptoms. Like this is going to be like a safe space.
That is a really good idea.
And anybody out there who's hearing this, like, this is my idea. Like, but I am going to be doing that in the name of Arise Therapy. So I'll make sure that I get you all the information about the when, the where.
Perfect.
And
great idea. Because my friend that is suffering with asthma, I had asked her if she had looked into a support group, and she said there wasn't really anything out there, and she didn't want to just join like a COVID group because she said a lot of these places are not safe spaces. There are people in there attacking people from being vaccinated or even.
But there's gonna be no attacking up in my COVID care support group. You know that.
People are nasty. People are nasty.
I could say that when I'm going through something, I like having those recorded. I mean, it's great to have it in person, but those recorded affirmations and kinds of things that Kelly did that for me in person before, and it makes a difference mentally. And I would think that if you are alone and you're going through COVID, that something like that too, Kel, to think about, like if I could just, because of you're going through, you might not have the energy. You spoke of all the fatigue. If I could play some inspiration stuff, because I couldn't watch the news. I couldn't do all that other stuff. There's no way that I want to know about numbers during that point. I don't want to know, who has, succumbed to this. I don't want to know any of that. I want to be lifted up. I want to hear positive things about my wellness, all those things. And I don't know if something like that exists either, specifically for people who are currently, because you're alone, you're being isolated. And I think for me, that's the part that kind of like scares me. It's like, I'm going to be alone. Sure, I can FaceTime people, but they're going to be asking a lot of questions like, Kel, are you okay? Check in. How do you feel now? What about now?
But you know what, guys, I'm a strong proponent of people having the things that feed their soul in their home. I'm a big proponent of that. I love books. I have hella books in this house. I love music. I have hella music in this house. I love old nostalgic movies and black and whites and stuff like that. I put the things that bring me joy in my home and surround myself with those things, to include, spiritual things as well. So I just strongly encourage anybody that if they're ever going through it, if you don't have your home set up that way, please set it up that way, because it may be vital.
Those smells too, like lavender.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. You have to make it a refuge. You have to make it
one of the best things that happened during my COVID. A friend of mine's sister lives nearby me, and she was like, "Well, do you have essential oils?" And I was like, "I do." And she was like, "But I'm gonna bring you something." And she brought cotton balls, and she brought a whole bottle of eucalyptus oil. But listen, when I was really struggling to breathe, and she had the cotton balls in the plastic bag with the eucalyptus, that thing gave me so much life. It was such a small thing.
But yeah, I started leaving those around the house because Kelly told me about that. So I keep it on my bed stand.
Yeah, they keep away ants and everything. It's amazing. Eucalyptus is amazing. I put it in the shower and just open the lungs right on up.
You suggested that for sure.
Well, it's 9:00, girls. We could probably talk about this for a very long time.
Yes.
Kelly, thank you for being our guest. We hope you come
Kelly.
back, especially when you get everything.
Thank you for your great questions.
Yeah, so we would love for you to come back when you get what's the name of it again?
It's going to be a COVID care support group.
COVID care support.
That's great.
Okay. Gadget, thank you. I hope you're somewhere safe. We can't see you. Thank you guys for your questions and your comments out there, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Good night.
Shout out to Mika. Take care.
Good night.